I call the Tuesday, April 2nd, 2019 Finance Committee meeting to order. I would entertain a motion for consideration of claims.
I would make that motion.
Second. And now you've got to read that.
The consideration of claims here.
Yeah.
So on the consideration of claims to be paid in the amount of $161,657,095, manual checks in the amount of $25,764.78, payroll and liabilities for March 15th, 2019 in the amount of $367,988.10 for a total of $555,410.83.
Is there any discussion?
I have no discussion.
No, Your Honor.
All right, seeing none, I will call this meeting adjourned. Oh, just kidding.
Unadjourned. You need to ask.
I am unadjourning.
You'll need to take a vote,
Oh, I thought they did before.
a vote to approve the claim.
Okay, I would consider a vote to approve the consideration of claims.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
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 Ask Tony. Yes.
Tony, do you have anything?
No, ma'am.
Mia, do you have anything?
Your Honor, thank you.
All right, this meeting is adjourned at 6:47 p.m.
I now call the April 2nd, 2019 regular meeting of the Riverton City Council to order at 7. Pledge of allegiance will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Bailey, and I'll give the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the many blessings that Thou hast poured out so generously upon us. We're grateful for this time of year, for the weather that we've received and for the moisture that we have in the mountains. We're thankful for the opportunity to come together and to discuss the needs of our community and ask for Thy guidance to be with us so we might be mindful of the things that our citizens need. We ask for Thy Spirit to be with us, and we do these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Would the city clerk please conduct roll call?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilwoman Carla Borders.
Here.
Councilman Mike Bailey.
Here.
Councilwoman Rebecca Schatze.
Here.
Councilman Kyle Larson.
Present.
Councilman Corey Rhoda.
Here.
Mayor Richard Gard.
Here. Councilman Hancock will be with us shortly. He's just running a little bit late, so do we have to make a motion to excuse him? I think he'll be in shortly.
Your Honor, I do not believe that if we know he's going to be here, you would need to make that motion.
He'll be right in. He's hustling really hard. His kids had a performance that they were doing tonight, and so he'll be here just as quickly as he can get away. I would declare that we have a quorum present. Approval of the agenda. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Give us just, Councilman Bailey.
Your Honor, I would move that we insert between item 8 and item 9, the Gannet Drive discussion.
Okay, thank you. Any other, we need a second on that if anybody has.
I second it.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilman Bailey, and we have a second by Councilman Larson to discuss the motion to discuss is using on the Gannet project. So we'll go to that and put that in at item 8. Having that motion, do we need to vote on that motion?
Your Honor, yes, you'll need to vote on the amended motion and then the main motion as well.
Okay, thank you. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. The chair would now entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Councilman Larson has made the motion and Councilperson Schatz has made the second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes. Communication from the floor. This is going to be a little bit, let me read that and then I'll explain it to you. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council regarding an item which is already on the agenda will be given the opportunity to speak later. I would ask those individuals who wish to address the council at this time to approach the podium, identify yourself for the record. Because we put the Gannet item on the agenda, you will be given the opportunity to speak when we get to that point. So is there anybody else in the audience that would like to address the council on anything that is not on the agenda? Oh, good. Maybe we didn't make that too confusing, I hope.
My name is Michelle Widmer.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Thank you,
My
Michelle.
name is Michelle Widmer. I am the director of Eagles Hope Transitions. We are transitional housing, helping those in the community that need a fresh start. I have sent out personal invitations to our spring open house, which is on Saturday at 10 a.m. We'll be serving breakfast, but I wanted to come up here and just in case you didn't get your invitation, I want you to all know that everybody is invited. It's a time to see who we are, what we do, who we serve, the services we provide, and again, we'll be having breakfast, so it'll be a great time to meet some of the residents, see some of the success stories of those that we have helped transition on back into the community to become productive citizens of the community, and maybe take a tour and see some of the rooms that we have available. So again, I just wanted to invite you all to come on Saturday.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Michelle, where's your location before you leave? Could you tell us that?
702 West Main Street. So on the corner of Main and North 8th West.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you.
Would the city clerk please read the consent agenda items by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Approval of the minutes, March 19, 2019, regular council meeting. Approval of the minutes, April 2nd, 2019, Finance Committee meeting. Approval of the Finance Committee recommendations for April 2nd, 2019. An ordinance number 19-004 on second reading. Public intoxication prohibited on public property. And I'll read that by title only. Proposed ordinance number 19-004 on second reading. An ordinance amending Title V, Business Licenses and Regulations to revise Chapter 5.04, Alcoholic Beverages, Section 5.04.060, Possession of alcohol in public places, and repealing all ordinance or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, Your Honor. Finance Committee meeting, consideration of claims for a total of $555,410.83.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I would make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Rhoda and a second by Councilman Bailey. Is there any further discussion? Carla, you're clear out there on the edge.
I know.
You sure? You're all right?
So isolated. No, I'm good.
Okay. No further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Here is where we would like to enter the discussion for Gannet. So, Councilman Bailey?
I would move that we, the city council, direct staff to use 1% funds to make temporary repairs as needed to Gannet Drive in order to stabilize and improve those road conditions.
I would second that.
So we have a motion by Councilman Bailey, and the motion is that we use 1% funds to temporarily repair Gannet Drive to order the stability and improve the conditions. And we have a second from Councilman Rhoda. So is there any further discussion? Glad to have you, Councilman Hancock. We're missing you.
Your Honor.
Yes.
On Gannet Drive, Mike, what were you referring to? The entire road or just the parts that are, the road base is coming through? Or what, can you be more specific?
Well, there are several places there that have had water main breaks, and they've had to go in and repair, and those places are really soft. And then there's a couple other major areas where the pavement is all soft and there's soft spots underneath. And again, the Force Committee has already been in discussions over the last year and a half, 2 years about Gannet Drive and the possible repairs that we're going to need to do to that. They have already paid an engineering firm to do the preliminary estimations of what we're going to need to do. And the Force Committee has been discussing the second phase of that, which is to get a final set of documents together to be able to bid that project. And so I think there's probably no way that the city would be able to get that project in place, under bid, and completed this year. But I think that street is in a condition where we have to do something because we're going to lose small cars and all kinds of stuff in the holes in that street. So I think we have to do something to temporarily stabilize that so that we don't have to worry about garbage trucks, fire trucks, any of that kind of stuff having to be able to get into that area, so.
So when I drove up there, there were two bad, I mean, I don't think bad really covers that. There were two areas that if I had a house up there, I'd be afraid to get a fire truck up there.
Exactly.
And I'm wondering if we have that capability in the city to, or could we possibly move funds to minimize the damage? Because the longer, at least Kyle used to tell me, that the longer we allow water to set on some blacktop, the worse it gets. It doesn't get better, it gets worse. And in some areas, we are down to the subsoil below the asphalt, and we've got chunks up there that big around with this much space in it, and then there's tire tracks in there. I mean, it's third world country, and I've been in a few third world countries.
I don't know if I'd go to that extent.
I think I could get a couple of people from the audience that might.
Maybe for some better clarification, we were fortunate enough to have Councilwoman Schatze go over to meet with a couple of the residents, and they called and asked if I would attend, and we went over, I believe that was a Friday a week ago, not last Friday, the Friday before. And so we went up and we looked at that, and we came back with a few ideas, and I think, Kyle, your idea was where we started. We were hoping to move that project forward. We checked on the engineering, and the problem really is in the engineering. They'll take 18 weeks to finalize the engineering on that project. So it puts us clear through the mid part of summer's construction work. And so, and what that would do is replace all of the engineering's well done on that, but it's not been paid for. And so we have to meet with the Force Committee and see if they're willing to go forward, and it's about $200,000 for that engineering. And so we would like to meet with the Force Committee and make sure that we don't step all over their feet, but we need to We need to get that engineering approved so that we can move it forward. Right now, what we're proposing, with somewhat of an emergency thought to it, is that we go in and excavate about a 300-yard stretch on Gannet and take out at least a foot of soil, all the asphalt from curb to curb. Take all of that, sub it out, put fabric back in, and then put road base, put pit run in and the road base, and then come back with asphalt chips and set it to grade. That is a temporary fix, which will trigger us to once again approach the Forest Committee with our idea that we would move Gannet project to number 1 coming out next spring. So, not that we want to step on anybody's toes, but we believe that we can do that using 1% money and stay around $35,000 to do those improvements.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Of that project, would we have to redo that over when we, in other words, so this would be a patch, we'd tear that patch off and go in and redo the whole thing?
That's correct.
But in the meantime, 35,000 is a lot better than burning a house down.
Yeah. And see, the idea, we can do a lot of things because we're the Riverton City Council, but there are restraints on us, and the city attorney told us that we did not have a health and safety issue at the moment. We could turn it into a health and safety issue, but we don't want to. We want to get in and excavate that out. The people on Gannet would have to live with that surface, but it would be immediate. We'd try to do it as quickly as we can and get that over-X out of there. We're going to try to do some other things while we're there. We're going to try to put some crossable blue board over the top of the water lines down on the corner so that house doesn't get flooded every year. We're going to start growing rice in the basement if it keeps up. So we are doing everything that we can in the time constraints that are given to us because we just can't push that engineering forward any faster. Is that a good explanation?
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess just to give a little more detail, the engineering firm has made suggestions, and basically that has a very big water problem down there. And so they're suggesting that we put in a drain system that will keep that roadway, after we would be completed, it would keep it drained and run that out into a storm sewer and run it down into the drainage system down below the hill. And so basically that street's it's going to be a major, major improvement over what they have, and it will have a way to get that excess water out of there. We're not just talking taking out a foot and putting some dirt in and repaving. We're talking about going down, 4 or 5 feet, putting in a drain system that will take all of that, underground water and get it out of the street so that the street will stay good and stable and solid, and get that all fixed the way it ought to be done. Because the water table up down there is just very high.
Yeah.
Councilman Larson.
Are we going to combine this with Davis Lane, or is that going to be an after one?
That would be the project in the future, yeah. We probably have to split those two apart because we don't have enough 1% funds to do that whole project
I
at one
haven't
time.
viewed Davis Lane, but Davis Lane drains into the ice pond where the ducks are versus the other is just deplorable.
Well, in defense of the 1 cent committee, to fix Gannet Drive correctly, Kyle, you could help me if I get too far off track. We'll take most of the money that we take in a year's time. It's $1.6 million. And so the Forest Committee has been trying to put that money into other places where it's more visible, more useful to the greater good. And yet we have this, Mrs. Tibbetts asked me 6-7 years ago to come up and look at the road, and I went up and looked and I turned it in then as a road that needed to be repaired 7 years ago. And so we're just going to have to bite the bullet and move Gannet forward, in our opinion, and we have to go discuss that with the Forest Committee next Monday and make sure that they're on the same. Now, we are that governing body, so if they don't agree and we agree that Gannet needs to be fixed, that's how the chips pan out. So that's why you guys get to vote. So all of our votes count. So that's where we're headed, if that is a clear enough suggestion.
Mr. Mayor, so the drain system would be put in next year when we redid the road, and we would just do the patch this year?
This is just a patch.
Okay.
And the patch would take out what you saw, all that moving soil, take all the soft soils out in that 300-yard stretch. We do have some pictures that Kyle's done a good job with, and that stretch will be completely taken out and subgraded with a fabric and put back in with chips so that we can grade that section. Then we'll go down to the corner and do the repairs that we need to try to keep that from freezing again this next winter. And then we'll chip all of those surfaces. And then we'll go to the Forest Committee and ask the Forest Committee to move forward with Gannet, seeing that we've already spent this much money to put it in a #1 position coming out next spring. Does that make sense? Did we explain that good enough?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
See if any of them want to say anything.
Now we're at that point where we would take any public comment from anyone that's come from the Gannet area to tell us how they feel about what we're thinking.
I'm Bruce Berg. Obviously, I live on Gannet Drive, and you guys have explained pretty much exactly what we were proposing. The road is, I think, a hazard right now, a health and safety hazard. When we watch the garbage trucks go by, the road just heaves. I mean, it's kind of, you guys have stood on that road, it feels like a trampoline right now. And it's not just our end of the road. It's the other end of the road. A week ago, I was down there. There was no runoff or rain or anything like that, but there was water standing on the pavement that had come through the ground, through the pavement. So it's a drainage issue all the way along there, and I'm glad to hear that you guys are proposing fixing the problem and not just the patch. Because the patch, we need that. We need the patch because, you know, I mean, you can barely get out of the Cox's driveway right now. But that doesn't fix the problem. So, thank you for recognizing this and going forward.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council?
I'm Jerry Kensler, and I live on Gannet Drive, and yes, we do have a problem. But I would like to give the city employees credit, due recognition for their hard work to try and keep us able to get in and out of our area. This past year, we've had a breakage 3 different times. They're up there all night long, and they have worked countless hours trying to make it doable for all of us to function. And I would like you to recognize them for all their hard work. And thank goodness you're going to do something because it's getting worse, not better. And it's the entire street. So thank you for coming up and looking, and let's get her done. Thank you.
I was going to save this for my mayor's comments at the end, but I would like to thank all of the council because last Monday, a week ago Monday, I called all of the council and asked them to go look at that if they hadn't already. And they all did, and they all came back, and this is what we came up with. And so I think it's a group effort. It's the best that we can do, I think, at the moment. And we'll be able to grade those tailings that we put in there, so we'll be able to try to keep them as smooth as possible. And hopefully the over-X will be deep enough. Okay? Do we need a vote on that motion? Oh, excuse me. One more.
Mayor, I'm Bethany Baldus, and I live down at the bottom of Davis Lane, and I just wanted to say that you guys are exactly right on this plan. In my opinion, I can't speak for all my neighbors, but we're okay down there. I live in the last house, and I can get in and out all right. So moving forward on Gannet and making that top priority and putting us in the future is definitely the right step.
Thank you. We appreciate that comment. That's helpful. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to us? Mayor Tibbetts?
No, Your Honor, you've done a fine job.
Thank you. Seeing no others,
We get a positive vote here.
I think we'll do that. We do have a motion in place. The motion was from Councilman Bailey. The second one was from Councilman Larson. It is to put the temporary patch on Gannet and do our very best to control those costs until we can move that project forward, using 1 cent money to do it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-1, the vote passes. I don't have any place to write that down. Do you have all that going, Kristen? Thank you. Now, we're to item, if you're following along, we're at item 9, the game and fish deer population presentation. And I see 3 red shirts. I didn't get introduced to the young lady, but we would like to, at this time, turn the microphones over to you guys and have you address us if there's anything you'd like us to understand.
Yep, appreciate it. My name is Greg Anderson. I'm the wildlife biologist for the area. I cover Togety to Waltman, including Riverton. So I'm going to kind of run through a few things here this evening, but first I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves. If the city decides to proceed with any town deer reduction program, you'd likely be dealing with all 3 of us. We would have a key contact, but I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves.
Hello there. My name is Jessica Beecham. I am the North Riverton Game Warden. So I cover kind of up towards Boysen, Lysite, that country up there, and of course in the city of Riverton as well. So nice to speak with you.
Thanks.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mitch Renteria. I'm the South Riverton Game Warden, so anywhere from Jeffrey City up to Highway 26, Riverton, and out towards Ocean Lake and Pilot Butte. So thank you for having us.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming.
Okay, introductions made. I guess we didn't communicate a lot, but my assumption is there's interest in town deer reduction. We have this in municipalities around the state. Urban deer numbers have increased in many places, and it's been a concern in many municipalities. So I thought what I would do tonight, essentially, I want to entertain your questions, if you have it, regarding a process of implementing a town deer reduction program. I'm going to run through the document that I gave you folks a little bit earlier. It's a real simple document, and it details the responsibilities of municipalities as we've outlined them through the game and fish programs that we've implemented around the state. And essentially, it all centers around pursuing a Chapter 56 permit, which is a permit to legally kill deer out of season in municipalities or in other instances. So I'm going to touch on a few key points there, and then I will just entertain questions. I can tell you it's a process that doesn't happen overnight, but town deer didn't grow overnight, so it doesn't sound like it's not an emergency like Gannet Drive there. And we do have a program in place. And I will also emphasize that this has been implemented in a number of municipalities around the state, and we have a list of folks and contacts for that. If you guys wind up discussing this, we can get you names and contacts from other municipalities. Each municipality has done things a little bit differently. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. People have forged ahead and had some good experiences, some bad experiences, and it's real, a good thing to learn from, I think, other municipalities' experiences. So that said, this document that I gave you, it kind of gives a little philosophy from the Game and Fish Department, who essentially, we're trustees of the state's wildlife. So we don't own the wildlife, but we're managing the wildlife for the public in general. So our philosophy is to provide recreational opportunity and meat for folks that want to harvest animals around in the state. We don't control what goes on in municipalities, and each municipality has its unique features. And so this is the program that we came up with. A dozen years ago, 2010, we came up with these guidelines. There were municipalities asking us for a process like this prior to 2010. So we had been working on this prior to then, to give cities flexibility in what they want to do for urban deer reduction. And again, it all centers towards pursuit of a Chapter 56 permit issued by the chief game warden in the state. And so I'll touch on a couple of key points. One thing that we certainly like to see is municipalities to enact big game feeding prohibitions in town. It doesn't make any sense for a municipality to have a deer reduction program, harvesting deer in one particular area and having a neighbor with a big corn pile there feeding them. And so that only makes sense, and it exacerbates the problem to have town deer feeding going on. We, again, have examples of these ordinances that other cities have passed. If that's something that interests you folks in the future, we can give you examples of those. A lot of them have exemptions for birds and squirrels and that sort of thing. There's no sense that somebody can't have a bird feeder going on. That doesn't need to be exempted. So that is step one, and we've required that of all municipalities. It's not a law, but our chief game warden has not issued any of these Chapter 56 permits where there hasn't been a feeding prohibition ordinance in place. So, following that, it basically winds up being the municipality's governing body, the city council, determining what you want to do for deer reduction in if it's a particular area, if it's citywide. We can work with you and get an idea of deer numbers in certain areas and then work at reducing those to a particular number. We've had municipalities that say we want all deer out of the municipality. In certain instances, that's effective. Riverton, that's probably a losing battle where you got the river running by, and you've got city boundaries with county boundaries mixed in. But if there's certain areas within the city that are a particular problem, that are localized, focused urban deer that never leave the area, those ones might be good to focus on with a process like this. They would be easier to count. You can see with the city boundaries there's a number of areas where getting an idea of how many deer are in town is going to depend on which minute you're counting when you're looking at some of those county lands and hay meadows next to the municipal boundaries. So again, a little bit different in Riverton than maybe some other places, complicates things, but certainly doesn't make it untenable by any means. So city comes up with a prohibition on feeding. City comes up with an objective for reducing deer numbers. City comes up with an idea on how to count deer, and we can work with you on that. We have with other municipalities. And then following that, it's basically the municipality's game from there. I can tell you where it's worked effectively in other cities. They've appointed a key contact, a person in charge. Oftentimes it's been somebody associated with the police department. Other places they've actually hired folks to come in and remove deer. During this process, if it gets to the point of removing deer, again, sensibly, there should be a process in place for disposing of those carcasses. We're assuming that these deer are, edible, and many places have meat lockers that they've contracted with, or somebody that works for the city that does it gratis and can hang carcasses for about a week's period. We do require, we require that a CWD, a chronic wasting disease sample, is taken when those deer are harvested. That goes down to our game and fish lab in Laramie. We know if a sample comes in and says this is going to donation, we can get to those samples pretty quick and have them analyzed within about 4 or 5 days once they arrive at the lab. And so we can get that turned around pretty quick. We do this during hunting season if we wind up with a carcass we want to donate. those need to come back negative. Obviously, we don't want to be handing out CWD positive deer, and we don't have a high CWD rate around here, but it's present, and so this could be an issue. If there are some deer put down in town, I would fully expect that there will be some that come back CWD positive. Those carcasses are then disposed of at the landfill in a proper manner. The other ones are then donated out. So again, a little bit of legwork to do ahead of time, having a donation list, or again, discussions amongst the city leadership, what you want to do with harvested deer. Some cities have actually paid to process them. Some hang the carcasses and call folks up as soon as they're CWD negative and say, here you go, and move on down the list. So that is, the nuts and bolts of it, essentially. It's a lot of process on the city's part, and again, we try to work through with the cities pretty quickly on our end if anything comes up. Again, helping out with designing samples for surveying the deer within the municipal limits and that sort of thing. And again, we can follow up on an annual basis. And again, that kind of covers everybody. If you have a town deer reduction program, I can tell you every city that's been involved in this, there's been folks in favor, there's been folks against, and it makes sense to have a good objective for the program, something that you can measure and show folks, hey, we were effective, in this area. And again, my thoughts on Riverton here, a little more complicated than some cities with the river running around, deer coming on and off hayfields, but again, not an untenable situation for sure. So with that, questions?
Let me give it just a little bit of background, because this is mostly Mayor Gard's doing. Probably a month and a half ago, I called Tony up, and we had a deer carcass dead at College View and Main Street. And I was on my way to Lander to a meeting, and I asked him if he would get, it was actually there on Monday, which was President's Day.
Yes.
And the city didn't work. And so I was leaving on Tuesday, and I called him and asked him if he would have that deer picked up. And he said, what deer? And I said, well, I told him. And so he went to look for it, and the deer was gone. It jumped up and ran away. Nope, that's not the truth. The city crews are so good at this, they picked him up. And so while I was in, I believe, Jason Hunter's office,
Yep.
Lander, he texted me and said that we picked up 5 dead deer on Main Street that weekend. And so my thought is simply to reduce those deer numbers. And I think you're right. I think we do have some people that might be feeding deer more than they should. And so this is just a discussion that I brought forward. The other thing that I noticed is Councilman Schatz put together, and her committee, the Parks Committee, put together some winter games. And down in our park, which I assumed, I live on the edge of town, and I do know the deer problem, but under every one of our trees in City Park was amazing amounts of deer droppings. And so it clued me into the fact that they're not just staying at my house, that they're all over the city. And so my thought was that maybe we could do something. We would like to know which communities are doing something about their deer. Do you have a list like that?
I don't have a full list with me, but I know, Sundance has been doing this for 10 years. And I talked with my colleague over there, Chris Teeter, the warden, and he kind of filled me in on some of the ins and outs that they've been through. Let's see, Du Bois, we've been doing this up in Du Bois. This will be our 4th year, I believe, and it's been pretty effective there. I talked to the chief of police down in Rollins. They're going through this process. They're a little farther along than, we're sort of at the just initial stages where you've had a discussion and some thoughts on this. Rollins has put together a bit of a plan, and I had an interesting discussion with their chief of police the other day in prep for this. Cody has done this, and so let's see, did he? Yeah, and I'm sure there's some other municipalities that have. I can get you a full list if you would like, calling around to folks. But again, this has been done, and for sure, going through some of the paperwork, like city ordinance regarding feeding, we could get you a collection of those, and you could kind of pick and choose from the best parts from other cities and that sort of thing. We have some background on doing surveys in these other municipalities and that sort of thing. So, yep.
Were any of the three of you here when we had our crow problem?
I was.
Were you?
Yep.
Did we follow the rules on the crows?
Well, that was not our rules in particular. That's the feds that have control over migratory birds and crows. And let's see, refresh my memory. I know there was a lot of nets that went up, and there was some poisoning that went on too then, right? When those settled in town.
No.
And some shooting.
Yeah, mostly we sent out specialized shooters that shot and picked up those birds, but it was by the hundreds that we shot them.
Yep. So, and, that problem went away at least for, well, there's always going to be crows around, but not near as bad as it was for a little while.
We had crows so bad that they were breaking the branches off the trees.
Yeah, it was a mess.
It was really bad.
So, and again, understanding that with deer, a lot of municipalities have had these discussions. And again, I think we have a pretty good, smooth process in place that allows a lot of flexibility for cities to determine what they want to do. And again, from talking with my colleagues in other cities, again, I think of Sundance, and I used to be stationed there. It's sort of a compact area, and you get out of town, and there's some suburbs there, but you hit the hills right north of there. They had town deer that were just living there. I'm sure there are some of those in Riverton too. They were able to eliminate those. Du Bois, we've got a situation where they wanted to reduce town deer numbers, but it's winter range for deer that clear out of Spread Creek and the Grovant. And so we set that permit up for Du Bois to harvest deer in September through early October, knowing those are the resident deer, and we don't want to harvest deer that might show up in town starting late October, because these are ones that were over in Teton Park and the Grovant, wild deer for most of their life. They're just coming back to winter range. Again, Riverton will have some challenges that you guys, I think, will want to discuss, looking at the lay of the land, and again, the river running around. You got ag fields right on the edge of town. But, if you're talking like smack in the middle of town near City Park and that sort of thing, where there's resident deer, those ones I think would be fairly easy to target through any type of program, and those are the ones you might want to concentrate on. But, yeah.
Councilman Bailey.
So the question to me, and I know I'm going to have 50 guys call me and ask, so can they have a season in town?
So as far as the game and fish is concerned, Riverton is in Deer Area 157. As far as we're concerned, the season is open. That creates some problems for cities regarding discharge of firearms. I was just talking with Mr. Tolstedt regarding archery harvest within city limits, where even with a good shot with a arrow, a deer, they bleed out. They're not dying of shock, and they're going to run 100, 200 yards. All of a sudden, they're in a neighbor's yard instead of your yard where you shot them legally with a bow that might be okay with the city council. And so the answer is yes. You might set yourself up for a few more headaches than doing a program like this, but it's certainly possible, and that would be up to the governing body. Yeah.
So
Councilman Larson.
would that be, so are we talking bow and arrows only, or are we talking crossbows? Or are we talking, what?
As far as season?
No.
As far as the deer reduction program.
We're talking about killing deer.
Yep.
And I'm talking about how do you kill them?
So again, if you folks want to proceed with an urban deer reduction program, that is entirely up to you. Who has the authority to do that, and what type of weapons they are allowed to use. I can tell you, I guess if I live in Lander, but if I was living in Riverton, I'd be a little ouchy if the city council said, whoever wants to, take whatever you want and come out Thursday night and we'll start shooting deer. Most folks, again, most of the municipalities have put an individual in charge. Down in Rollins, I was speaking with the chief of Police, Troy Palmer. He sounded really organized. They were farther along in the process, and we've got Chief of Police over here, and or police. You hate to dump stuff on them, but a lot of the other municipalities have appointed somebody within their police department to spearhead the program, determine who is going to harvest the deer, and run the program.
Just for further clarification, we did have our police go back through, and they reported to us that we've killed 57 deer so far this year.
And that was from injured deer?
Well, mostly just hit by cars.
Yeah.
So, Rich, you didn't answer my question.
Well, I think we know where your question's at. I think I can answer it. This governing body would have to apply for a special permit 56. We'd have to wait for that. As we did that, we would need to pass an ordinance that restricted feeding of deer, excluding squirrels and birds and other things that people like to feed. Now, and that's going to, and see, this is a idea that Mayor Gard came up with. So we may be way off base. We may have a lot of people in that don't want to kill deer, and so we would have to take that into our thought process and see where that lied. And then I think the answer to what you're looking at, I think it would be much like the crow thing that we did, that we would actually assign hunters that we thought were excellent individuals at what they did with arrows, not guns. No one wants guns shot off in city limits. Arrows are really dangerous, and so we'd have to have people that we really trusted to do that. And then my idea is that we would take them off of the bench, everything below the canal, out to the golf course, and try to reduce the deer herd. My first request of Mr. Hunter was if he would just bring some trailers over and take your deer home, would be nice. But he didn't think that was a good idea. And so, since they're not willing to take the deer out of Riverton, I think we have to do our homework from here on out and decide if it's something that we want to pursue, if the citizens are interested in that or not. Lander did it, and their problem is they opened it up to the general public, and people did shoot deer, and they did run down to their neighbor's house, and that was a deer that the neighbor had named and fed on a daily basis, and it did cause some problems. And so we would need to think that through and make some better ideas if that's something that we wanted to do. But I see there's a great big, we looked up, Tony was kind enough to Google it, and I think the average auto repair of a car hit with a deer was $4,700.
Sounds about right, Your Honor.
And so if you multiply that by the time, now probably what we'll really have is all our auto body guys in town not wanting to get rid of the deer. But I think it's something that we really ought to look at, and something that no one likes to see a dead animal on the side of the street. And that's what I think is most offensive. And so if they would just get hit and go somewhere out of the way, that would be better. But they usually just die right on the street. And a few years ago when I was on council, the neighbor didn't even live in the city, but he called me up and said, since you're on the city council, come get your deer out of my driveway. And no one would take the deer away, so I went and got the deer and hauled it to the landfill. And so I think there's some real problems that we have, and if we address it correctly, I think we can do something about it that's smart. Deer bring diseases and all sorts of other things to town too. So
yeah, and I would point out you had a couple of good points, and it's not just that nobody wants to see a deer get hit. As these urban deer grow, there is more of that, obviously. And if there's an effective, safe program and those deer can be harvested and the meat can be donated out, that's a good thing. I mean, instead of a deer laying and going to waste in a ditch. So, yeah. And ideally, if a program's effective, it's not something that you have to run in perpetuity if you're talking about reducing numbers and reducing accidents and reducing small dogs getting chased around in their yards by bucks come rutting season and that sort of thing. You reduce it, and ideally it stays knocked back for a little while, and then maybe you'll implement it again, years in the future. So, but I think implemented effectively, again, these deer can be utilized. There are people that want the meat, and it can be an effective tool for reducing certain populations. Again, you're going to have some issues to deal with in Riverton, in a city this size with broken boundaries like that, but not insurmountable, and we'd be happy to work with you. Our attitude is you need to let us know what the objectives are. I think looking at Riverton, if the objective is to have no deer in town, boy, that's going to be a pretty tall order. And but yeah, if there's certain areas that you just want to reduce, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think most of us remember when the deer went in Books and Briar and then jumped through the front window of Books and Briar back onto Main Street, broke the glass out of the window. So I think there's an opportunity here for us to be proactive and do something instead of just sit and complain. Is there any other questions?
I just have a question on, as far as mitigating this issue, the possibility of relocating the deer. I'm just kind of curious about that, if that's even a solution.
Yeah, relocating deer is not something that the Game and Fish is going to... We don't have the personnel to relocate urban deer from every municipality in the state of Wyoming. That's why we came up with this plan. Right. And we don't want to step on cities' toes and be doing one thing in one place and another city says no. We think this program is crafted where each city can make a determination. There's enough flexibility here. Whatever works for the particular city, provides a lot of flexibility, I think. Yep. And yeah, trapping town deer, again, could be a mess.
Yeah.
So...
Smell like a grizzly bear.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be that bad if we were trapping grizzly bears in town. But again, so I would, if there's no more questions, I guess I would just encourage you folks as a body to discuss this. We have our process lined out. You can let us know any type of resources that you might want. If you want a comprehensive list of other municipalities that have had these programs, we can put that together for you. If you would like to see some of the feeding ordinance, prohibition ordinances, we can put some of those together for you. And that's really the first step before even applying for the Chapter 56 permit. Our chief game warden, I know, wants to see that in place so we know that this neighbor's not baiting and this neighbor's trying to shoot deer out of their yard. So...
I would be interested in
Okay.
that. I don't know if everybody else would, but if we could have a list of the municipalities that are doing it, so that we could maybe call and check with them, and then if we could have the ordinances that you think are good ordinances on feeding or not feeding animals, we'd like to see that, and then we're a long ways from shooting any deer, so. Is there a contact? Can we just continue to contact our local game wardens? Would that be the best contact for us?
Yeah, we talked about that instead of, all three of us involved. Mitch is going to be your prime contact, I think we decided. He's around in town, and he'd be a great contact. Then the three of us will confer on stuff, but Mitch would make a great contact. So,
Your Honor.
I think I still have Mitch's contact information, so we'll try to proceed with that and see if there's any interest for it. If there is or is not, we'll make that decision.
No, Your Honor, I'll be happy to consolidate all of that and put it into your packets for review. I can send it out for review if you would like.
And you might want to get Tony's contact information if you want to email that stuff. Tony's really good at that. And
I'll do that initial step, and what I've got down that you folks would like to see is a comprehensive list of municipalities with urban deer reduction programs. And I say comprehensive. I'll try to do my best at comprehensive, but yeah, please don't yell at me if I forget Mountain View and it turns out they had a deer reduction. But we'll get a long list together. And then I've also got that you would like at least a couple examples of these feeding prohibition ordinances. And I will say again, I had a very interesting conversation with Troy Palmer, I think, was the chief of police down in Rollins. One of my colleagues recommended that I call him. They are in the process of kind of finalizing one of these plans. He had all his ducks in a row and had been through this process and had some good comments. And he would be a great contact for any of you to call. I checked with him. They're dealing with the same thing where they've got a 50-50 split in town. I don't know how it work out in Riverton, but they've got about half their population going, no, don't do that, and half saying, yeah, we've got an issue here. So he's trying to keep it pretty low key, but he said I could pass on what they've done, and he'd be happy if someone were to contact him. And they're kind of at the end stage where I think they're going to present their plan to the public, and so that would be a great contact, to talk with another city that's just gone through this process.
Super.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Thank you. Appreciate your time.
All right. Well, good luck, and let us know what you need regarding this in the future, or if it, again, process is kind of set, so the wheels sort of rolling. It's just a matter of the mechanics of it, and
this is mostly my idea, and we'll see if it has legs, and then we'll get back to you.
All right. Hey, appreciate it.
Thank you. Sue, are you here? Sue, you want to stand up and recognize your organization a little bit for us before we go further?
Sure. We are the Wyoming Senior Citizens Incorporated. Up here. We are the Wyoming Senior Citizens Incorporated. We have, nationally, it has been designated as National Service Recognition Day for volunteers. So we have some wonderful volunteers here with us who serve in communities, our communities, Lander and Riverton. We have some of our foster grandmas, if you'd like to just stand, ladies, and one of our senior care companions. And I will let Kelly talk a little bit more just a second about those things. But these ladies work with children in our communities every day. They volunteer their time and their efforts, and they have made just an impact on children as much as the children have made an impact in our communities on them. So we'd just like to recognize them and tell them thank you so much.
My name is Kelly Schaefer, and I'm the coordinator for the Senior Companion Program. Both of these programs are a part of Senior Corps. And along with AmeriCorps, these two main programs really work to try to help communities and help those that are in the community with volunteerism. AmeriCorps is based on helping young people learn leadership skills and get them involved within their communities. Unfortunately, we are not able to have any AmeriCorps representatives here tonight, but they do work within our communities. As far as Senior Corps, we have three programs that work within Wyoming, and that's RSVP, Senior Companion, and Foster Grandparent Program. And those programs are designed to help those that are 55 and older to get back into the community. The Foster Grandparent Program and the Senior Companion Program focus on those that are at low income, and they earn a small stipend from the federal government to give back for their time. But they all give so much of their time. It's even more than what we could ever imagine in listening to their stories. Senior Companions go into homes for those that are shut-ins, anyone 21 and older. Mostly the elderly are focused because they're generally the more shut-in. But by helping those that are shut-in, they're not only helping those that are in that position of being shut-in, they're able to get them to be interactive and physically and mentally reconnected with life. and they get to remember that they are part of our community and part of life. And our senior companions also benefit from that because they're able to stay active. And so the benefits go both ways. And as you heard with the foster grandparents, they're in our schools, they're in our daycares, they're in our churches, giving back and mentoring our young children. And so we really appreciate you as a council supporting us, our communities for supporting all of us, and we really appreciate our volunteers that we're able to give back to the community. So thank you for your time.
Kyle reminds me tonight that I don't speak loud enough, and so I will do my very best to do a better job of speaking. This proclamation is for Mayor's Day, recognition of national service, the Mayor's Proclamation. Whereas service to others is a hallmark of American character, central to how we meet our challenges, and whereas the nation's elected leaders are increasingly turning to national service and volunteerism as a cost-effective strategy to meet their needs. And whereas the AmeriCorps and Senior Corps participants address the most pressing challenges facing our communities. They educate students for the 21st century jobs, they fight the opioid epidemic, respond to national disasters, and support veterans and military families. And whereas the national service expands economic opportunities by creating more stability and resilient communities and providing education, career skills, and leadership ability for those who serve. And whereas the AmeriCorps and Senior Corps participants serve in more than 50,000 locations across the nation, bolstering civic, neighborhood, and faith-based organizations that are vital to our economy and social well-being. And whereas the national service participants increase the impact of the organizations they serve, both through their direct service and by managing millions of additional volunteers. And whereas the national service representatives are a unique public and private partnership that invests in the community's solutions and leverages non-federal resources to strengthen community impact and to increase the return on tax dollars. And whereas the national service participants demonstrate commitment, dedication, and patriotism by making an intensive commitment to serve and commit to a commitment that remains with them in their future endeavors. And whereas the Corporation of the National and Community Services share a priority with local leaders nationwide to engage citizens, improve lives, and strengthen communities, and is joined with the National League of Cities and the National Association of Counties and Cities of Service, the local leaders across the country for National Service Recognition Day on April 2nd, 2019. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Richard P. Gard, Mayor of Riverton, Wyoming, do hereby proclaim April 2nd, 2019 as National Service Recognition Day and encourage residents to recognize the positive impact of national service in their community and thank those who serve and find ways to give back to their communities. Thank you. We really do appreciate you. And as you stop and think of all the volunteerism that is in our community, we have some really great volunteers, don't we? And this doesn't just cover you guys. It covers a lot of people that are out there trying to give back to our community, and we just couldn't do what we do without your help. And so we really do appreciate you. Thank you. Don't we all? Could you pass that over to Kristen?
I'm okay.
We appreciate everybody that's still with us. And we'll move on to item 11, WYDOT transfer of right-of-way. Public Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. WYDOT is planning on some improvements along Main Street from 2nd Street to Hill Street. The work plan currently includes improvements to curb and gutter, sidewalk approaches, and ramps in order to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. In order to construct the just referenced improvements, WYDOT does need to acquire a temporary construction easement and then a permanent acquisition from the City of Riverton. Those locations were included in your packet. The temporary construction easement is basically right where our West Main tank is, across the street from CWC. And then the permanent acquisition is at the intersection of College View and Main Street. The acquisition is for the purpose of installing ADA ramps at that location. Right now, the city does not use that right-of-way for anything but a street and sidewalks. That use will remain as such, except it will no longer be our right-of-way. It will be WYDOT's right-of-way, which is appropriate since it is adjacent to their highway. Attached in your packet is the summary statement of the fair market value and appraiser's report for these two properties. From that, $250 is proposed for the temporary construction easement adjacent to our tank on West Main. And then for the permanent acquisition is $2,660. Obviously, these revenues were not included in our budget, so this is a bonus of revenues for this fiscal year. And staff recommends that the City Council execute the appropriate documents so that we transfer the right-of-way to WYDOT and then also give them a temporary construction easement in order to construct these improvements. Thanks, Your Honor.
Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate that report. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the temporary construction permit and the permanent acquisition for the state of Wyoming to the Department of Transportation.
So moved. Second.
Kyle, Councilman Larson has made the motion, and we have a second from Councilman Bailey. Any further discussion? We seem to be just fine with the amount of money that does the mayor get that much money?
Your Honor, I'll let the city administrator answer that question.
Seems like a lot of money for one mayor. Maybe I have to share a little bit, but that will just go back into the general fund. Is that my understanding?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thanks,
That money would transfer to the general fund.
Okay. That construction period is next year?
Your Honor, I just received news today, and so I'm not sure when that construction is going to go. It's possible that this project will be combined with another. It seems that some funds have been freed up in WYDOT's budget, and they're going to try and maybe enlarge that project. So right now that's to be determined, but that was the plan prior to today.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Is the idea that they'll be handling upkeep then for like the curb and gutter there, or am I off base there? I mean, because this does have to do with the ADA ramps and everything like that.
Your Honor, Councilman, there's administrative rules that state that if the population is over, I believe, 2,500, the sidewalks and the storm systems are up to the city to maintain. The curbs in the street are up to WYDOT to maintain. We'll verify that, but these ramps or sidewalks, if there's major damage pursuant to existing rule, the city would maintain those, and that's how it currently is right now.
And there are no current sidewalks in those locations, in College View and Main Street locations, correct?
Your Honor, there are where they're making the improvements. They're just changing it from being a ramp right at the radius to having two ramps at the point of curve on that radius.
But we don't have sidewalk down College View, correct, on the west side or the east side at this present time?
Your Honor, that is correct. The sidewalk that is on College View is very intermittent all the way throughout.
Okay. Any other? Councilman?
This other project they're thinking of doing, I don't think it was this year, it was going to be next year that they were going to be putting a traffic light on Major and Main.
Your Honor, the information I have right now is very preliminary. I believe that that's what they're looking at doing, including some improvements to the existing concrete in the downtown area. Mr. Scheidelmann is just getting the information as well, and so what they're looking at is bumping up projects that have already been in the capital plan and then including it into one budget season.
Be nice.
It'd be nice.
It needs it there.
I think I spoke with Robert at the federal meeting, and he mentioned that the stop signals would be coming in the next year at Majors.
Okay, so that's why I was asking, because it sounds like they're wanting to move that one to 2019 rather than 2020 then.
I don't know if the streetlights would move, because it's quite a costly project, but if they have extra money, it could be.
Your Honor, we'll get more as they hone down those details.
The thing that I thought was really interesting in that conversation, you know, the dips that they put in that road? When they put the light through that, those dips are too deep, so they'll have to raise those, and that will become a smooth intersection, so you won't be dragging through that, and that will make it very much quicker to go through the intersection.
That'd be nice.
So, yeah, that will be a nice arrangement. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Item 12 is a Little League memorandum for the memorandum of understanding from Babe Ruth Baseball. Public Works Director, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Right now, the city owns the facility that Babe Ruth has occupied and utilized for several years. However, Babe Ruth will no longer operate in Riverton, and so Riverton Little League would like to begin operation of a new league called Little League Juniors, which will allow youths to recreate and play baseball ages 13 to 14. And they'd like to utilize the field at the corner of Sunset and Major, where Babe Ruth previously occupied. The MOU being proposed is very similar to the MOU that the city had with Babe Ruth. It's just updating it to Little League Juniors and updating it to form, really. To describe some of the responsibilities and duties as it's broken down between Riverton and Little League. Little League will basically run the league. They'll take care of registrations, they'll take care of making sure that the teams are staffed and coaches are staffed, the umpires are there, that they're going to have equipment. They will do the pregame field prep and basically everything that Babe Ruth used to do as well. They'll also procure and pay for a liability policy for their league as it operates at that location. Pursuant to this MOU, the city will maintain the parking lot, control weeds, do the mowing, and help maintain and empty the trash receptacles that were there. Drag the fields at what I've put in the MOU is drag the fields at on a basis that is appropriate and coordinated in advance with the league. So hopefully between both entities, we can keep those fields in good operating order. And then the other thing to make note of from the MOU is that the city's obligation to maintenance is subject to available personnel and our available budget. I've worked with Mr. Travis Draper, who's the president of Little League, with this MOU. He's reviewed it several times and is okay with it. There's no direct budgetary impact on executing this MOU. That being said, the city will obviously invest personnel and material, but it won't be any different than what we have already been investing, and it's similar to what we have expended historically in those line items. Therefore, we recommend that the City Council execute and enter into this memorandum of understanding with Little League for the Little League Juniors League. Thank you.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with the city of Riverton and Riverton Little League.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilman Hancock. And a second from Councilwoman Borders. Any discussion? Tim?
What's the difference between what we've been doing? You said it's almost exactly the same. What's different between what we've been doing with Babe Ruth and what we're going to be doing here?
Your Honor, honestly, everything's word for word. I think I took out something about providing restrooms because we don't provide porta potty restrooms, but there are restrooms there, and we clean those. If I remember right, that's the only thing that was taken from the previous agreement, and then again, we just updated it to a more current form.
Thank you.
Kyle?
Do we water or do they? Because I remember we had an argument last year or the year before. The fields were this and they, somebody wanted to maintain the water switch.
Your Honor, thank you. That is in the MOU. We do perform the irrigation and the watering.
Okay.
Councilman Bailey?
Yes, and does Little League pay for the lights, the electricity bill, or is that the city's?
Your Honor, I don't have that answer at this time. I'll have to look into that.
It's Little League's. They should pay for it.
Well, if there's no budget. I mean, if we did it last year, then we've already budgeted for it.
I'm still curious.
Yeah,
Okay.
we would like to know that, but I do believe it's, at least Babe Ruth, I believe, paid for it. But if you could get us that information, we'd like it.
Your Honor, I will.
I have one other request, and I thought I'd just wait till I could sideline you in this meeting to request it. When I take a team to PAL, the fields are all lined by their city workers, and they look really good. And when we have the home team or the visiting team's parents line the fields, they look kind of like a snake. And so I think we would save chalk, and I think we would present ourselves much more professionally if not only, but if we mowed those, but it's only a 6-week period of time that field is what was used in Babe Ruth. So maybe even shorter in junior Little League. But if we could have our guys set those lines, and they could set those lines early in the game day. I mean, it could happen at 3 o'clock or something. Set those lines on the field, and they would look so much better, and we would look a little bit better as an organization. And would it be possible for you to look into that and see if that's a doable thing?
Your Honor, we can look into that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. Item 13, bid award of East Bell Sewer and Surface Improvement Project. Once again, Kyle, Public Works Director, would you give us a report, please?
Absolutely. Your Honor, this is the first bid award for the 1% projects to be completed this construction season. It is consistent with the motion that the City Council made on November 20th, 2018 to move forward with the project priorities, that were established and motioned by the 1% committee. The East Bell Sewer and Surface Improvement Project was advertised and bids were publicly opened on March 19th with the following results. We had 5 bidders submit. Viper Underground Incorporated for the total amount of $234,020. Dave's Asphalt Company for $263,030. Jerry Bornhoff Construction for $276,372.40. 71 Construction for $314,810. And Patrick Construction for $369,925. Staff has reviewed each of these bid proposals and have found that they were responsive to the bid specifications, and therefore we recommend that the City Council award the East Bell Sewer and Surface Improvement Project to the apparent low bidder, Viper Underground, and the low bidder, I should say, Viper Underground. As far as the budget impact, The funds will come out of the 1% fund, and currently, after subtracting obligations that are already against that fund, there is $1,933,500 available to spend this construction season. It is also important to note that the East Bell sewer and surface improvement job will be split between the 1% fund and the sewer fund. Right now, it is anticipated that $120,000 and change will go to the 1% fund, and $113,600 will go to the wastewater fund. We have right now, in this current fiscal year's budget, $84,000 put towards this improvement. We will need to budget more in the upcoming season. And the the staff estimate for this project was $349,000 total. We therefore recommend that the City Council award the East Bell Sewer and Service Improvement Project to Viper. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to award East Bell Sewer and Surface Improvement Project to Viper Underground for an amount of $234,020.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Larson and a second by Councilperson Schatz. Any discussion?
Your Honor, I just have a question. I'm not familiar with Viper Underground. Where are they located?
Warland,
Warland.
yeah. They worked here last year and the year before. Excellent work. They worked with the highway when we did some work down on South Federal by Mike's. They're good. They're good. Their work is excellent.
Are they out of Worland?
Your Honor, they do have an office in Riverton.
Do they? Okay.
Any further discussion? Councilman Hancock.
What do you attribute the difference of 33% between the staff estimate and what they actually bid on?
Your Honor, this is always a tough question to answer because I have no idea the mind of a contractor.
I can help you with that when you're done.
Thank you. But what I can say is that they were responsive to our bid specifications, and from their proposal, they believe they can do the work that we asked them to do at the price that they provided.
They did also Second Street.
Councilman Bailey?
Yes, minor detail, but on the very bottom of the page, council goal impact. We still had big Wyoming resurfacing project there. We need to update that, not that it.
Your Honor, thank you for that catch, Councilman.
Both bids are that way.
Yeah, I was going to say the other one too, the college view.
The mind of a contractor, just so everybody knows, they're really hungry this time of year. And so they'll do almost anything for work. Give me a call. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. Motion passes. Item 14, bid award for College View Concrete Improvement Project. Public Works report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is our second project, and bids were advertised and publicly opened on March 26th with the following results. 71 construction with the total of $191,471. Schneider Construction in the amount of $246,336.43. Dave's Asphalt Company in the amount of $278,284. Again, staff reviewed each of these bid proposals, and we were able to verify that they were responsive to our specifications. The budget impact is the same, except that we subtract out what was just awarded for the East Bell Sewer Improvement Project. And after doing so, there's $1,699,480 available in the fund to award towards this project, which is to improve curb and gutter and drainage along College View, basically from Main Street to Sunset. And even though we had the wrong thing, it still serves the same goal.
Super. The chair would entertain a motion to award the College View Concrete Improvement Project to 71 Construction in the amount of $191,471.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Rhoda has made the motion, and Councilman Bailey has made the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say aye. Motion is passed. Resolution number 1388, Community Enhancement Committee. Public Works Director report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. And if you don't mind, I'd defer that to Tony.
Excuse me, I was told that. Tony asked me to switch that.
Thank you, Your Honor. The City Council adopted Resolution 1366, which set the goals of the community, goals of the City Council. And furthermore, Resolution number 1370 on March 20th of 2018 developed the Parks Committee. I find it interesting that on March 19th of 2019, the report was given, which then dissolved the committee. Council heard that report at the previous meeting, one of the previous meetings. Due to some of the conversation about the good things that particular group ended up doing, the discussion revolved around developing a committee that focused on events and positive items and had that charge directly. Because the Parks Committee itself dissolved, we're bringing forward Resolution 1388. This would establish the Community Engagement Committee, which would serve as an advisory board to the City Council. It would be appointed by the mayor with concurrence of the City Council. The mission would be to seek opportunities to improve the City of Riverton by increasing community involvement, coordinating community activities, maximizing public spaces, and developing community partnerships. The committee is proposed currently to have one council member appointed to it, with between 6 and 8 community members appointed to it. The city administrator, public works director, or their designee would be proposed to staff that. We would have 2-year terms on this, but individuals could be reappointed. Initially, some individuals would serve a 1-year, others would go right into a 2-year term. This committee would continue to function until it was disbanded. Where the Parks Committee had a certain goal and then it dissolved, this would go on in perpetuity until modified. The council, this is recommended for approval, and we would stand for any questions.
Before we do that, Kristen, would you read that by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. A resolution of the governing body of the City of Riverton establishing a community engagement committee to advise city officials on how to engage its citizenry and coordinate community-centered activities and opportunities.
Thank you. Appreciate that. The chair would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 1388.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Councilman Bailey with the motion and Councilman Larson with the second. Any discussion?
Your Honor,
Yes.
currently on the Parks Committee, which the same committee would roll over, we have 2 council members serving on that committee. Would there be a way that we could change this to keep that going with the 2 council members serving on this committee as well?
Tony, could you give us some thought why you thought to take it back to 1?
Your Honor, there wasn't a significant amount of discussion. It was the same. It was 2, just as Councilwoman Schatz had pointed out. Council can absolutely move it to 2 individuals with a motion. There was no significant reason other than to have one representative reporting directly back.
You just wanted to see if we could do another motion is what you wanted, right?
It's good. It's always good practice.
There's a quota in the meeting. I move we amend the resolution 1388 then to include that it would include 2 members of the city council.
Second.
Okay. Councilman Hancock have made a motion. Councilman Hancock, are you all right with the members on that committee? 6 to 8 is all right?
I still think that number could stay the same.
Okay.
That's about what we have right now, right?
Correct.
So the motion that we have is to increase the council participation to 2 and leave the citizen participation at 6 to 8?
Yes, sure.
That's the correct motion, and we have a motion from Councilman Hancock, and the second was Councilman Rhoda. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So now we're back to the original motion. We still have that motion in place, and I would still like to have some further discussion. Is that appropriate?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do we want at this time to encourage members of the community to send us some letters so we know who would like to be on that committee?
Your Honor, yes, I would suggest that, as we do with many different items that are appointed by the mayor, that we solicit through Facebook, and everybody can push that out. Letters of interest provided to the mayor. They can be sent to City Hall, and then we'll provide that, and then the mayor can make that recommendation, make those appointments for council.
So we would encourage those people that currently have sat on the Parks Committee to apply if they would like to?
Absolutely, Your Honor.
And anybody else that would like to apply, we would like to encourage that citywide. And we have a really debt of gratitude to pay to the Parks Committee. And so that was the committee, whoever thought of it was well done and was extremely helpful to what we were doing in Riverton. And I'd like to give all the commendations I can to the thoughtfulness that brought that committee to place. And so we've been a benefactor of that. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. Now we got to the good part. Reports and comments. Item 16. Council member comments. Councilman Rhoda, we started with you last time, didn't we? Or did we start over here?
I believe we started over there, Your Honor.
Are you ready to go?
I think so.
Super.
So yesterday I was able to attend the Fremont County Recreation Board. We had 5 applicants for grants and a total of, was it 12?
School District 25.
School District 25, recreation, excuse me. Thank you, Kyle. And we had 5 applicants, I believe, with a total of $12,000 in grants. And I think it was really well. It was my first meeting, so I wasn't too vocal myself, but I thought it went very well, and it's pretty exciting to see some of the beautifications that are going to come along with those grants. I've been talking with Tony and Kyle about some other things, but I don't want to be too preemptive on it, but we definitely have some exciting stuff in the works, again, that will most likely accommodate the parks locally. But that is all I have for now, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle?
We, in dealing with the beautification of Riverton, the School District 25 has two sets of budgets, one for beautification and one for activities. And the individuals that came forth yesterday were primarily for beautification of certain areas. The one that I screwed up on today, I was too busy in my office, but I'm going to go down and see Jerry Kinsler about a fountain that we have in the city park that's the concrete, the sidewalks that we put in 5 years ago, Mike, 10 years ago?
Yeah, 10 probably.
And there's, so we've got money still for that fountain. And so I'm gonna go down and talk to Jerry, and he's still got money. And there's gotta be plans somewhere for the proper place of that fountain. And it would be a smash, beautiful looking fountain. And yes, I realize that somebody's gonna put soap suds in it, and we'll drain it, and then somebody's gonna do that, and we'll drain it. But nevertheless, it will look beautiful.
Why'd you have to give them the idea?
That's not an idea.
We'll be on the radio tomorrow.
Yeah. But that was, and I also attended the garbage committee and on the 19th of last month, and they're well endowed. They've got money, and we don't worry about whether our garbage is going to be hauled to anymore. But you're right, you could haul it to Cody and you'd save considerable money.
Thank you, Kyle. Rebecca.
Yes, Your Honor. So nothing new to report on the pause board. We haven't met since the last time we met, and I reported on that. The Community Engagement Committee, formerly known as the Parks Committee, had our final meeting last Thursday to just kind of go over what we accomplished and say our farewells until next meeting, and we become the Community Engagement Committee. We have started our initial planning for our summer rendezvous games. We have decided on the official date. We've reserved the park, and that will be August 10th. Corey mentioned, maybe making them exactly 6 months apart was a good idea, and we all agreed. So it'll be the week after Fair Week, again, August 10th in the city park. I meet with the chamber board on Thursday, and then they have a chamber social Thursday evening from 5 to 7 at the community health centers up there on Sunset. Meet with the Splash Pad group on Thursday to plan our grand opening for the Splash Pad, which will be the Friday before Memorial Day weekend. We want to recognize our sponsors, and we have some community members currently working on perhaps a mural to dedicate to our sponsors, as well as live music and food for that event. We also, myself and Corey and a few others, have started a weekly trash cleanup in Riverton. So we've been doing, this will be our third weekend this coming Sunday, cleaning up different locations in town. It was a Facebook thing that went viral. It's called hashtag trash tag, or hashtag trash tag is what they called it.
Something of that nature.
Anyhow, so we got together with just a group of friends, and community development director is present with his wife Tara, and the city administrator came last week. We have a formal council member, Lance Godey, and then a couple of the media outlets, the K2 News, Bobby, and then we also had Rusty Wirtz from the Wind River Radio Network come out too. So it was a really, really good time. So this Sunday, we're planning on doing it again to accommodate more community members working with their schedules. On this Sunday, we're going to have two different cleanups. We'll have one at 10 a.m., starting at CWC, working down Main Street. And then we'll have another one at 2 p.m., starting at City Park and working up Main Street. And we'll just kind of meet in the middle. So if you want to join, 10 a.m., CWC parking lot, or 2 p.m. at the City Park. It's really a really good time. It's really not like we're working at all. We're just having fun and laughing. So I encourage you to join if you'd like.
Bring gloves.
Yes, gloves are highly recommended. And please bring your own trash bags so that we don't have to buy them all.
Any prizes for strangest things?
We've actually discussed that, Kyle. We thought about doing like a treasure hunt, and then we maybe go get a Taco Bell gift card or something. So whoever finds the strangest events or the items or the most items on the list gets that at the end of the
Super
thing. So it's been a really good time.
You're gonna check the bags to make sure.
It's the honor system. But it is a really good time. Oh, and their Facebook events are created, and they're public events. So if you just look up Kickin' Trash on Facebook, you'll be able to find those events and then know the locations of where we'll be at. So that's all I got.
Rebecca, could you give me the date on the splash pad opening? I wasn't ready.
Yep, it's going to be May 24th, which is the Friday before Memorial Day. It'll be after the kids get out of school, so we're thinking around 4 p.m., but we'll get a better time on that.
Super.
That's also the last day of school for the kids.
Thanks for your efforts.
Yes.
And the last big snow of the season.
Yeah.
Right.
It should have the ice off the pond by then. Councilman Bailey.
Again, I don't have a whole lot. The Forest Committee will be meeting Monday. And I think the airport board meets Friday, if I remember that. This Friday, I can't remember. 2 weeks away, so I'm sort of on days off this week, I guess, so. Again, I'm glad we all put a lot of work into the Gannet Drive issue, and I think the public needs to know that the Forest Committee has been working on that, and it's a known issue for quite a while. They've done some extensive studies on the water problems down there, and so I think we're moving forward. I think we just didn't quite expect the kind of damage we were going to get out of this winter season with the frost coming out of the ground and all that kind of stuff. So I think, they've already put a lot of work and a lot of effort, and the engineering's in process, and so I think we'll easily be able to get this project going. And if we keep saving $100,000 each bid that we do, we're going to be in great shape with the 1% fund for next year. So,
Super.
Thank you.
Councilman Hancock.
I don't have anything. I was going to attend the Solutions Committee, but I unexpectedly found myself ill, and so I don't have anything to tell you, but I think Carla does.
Yeah, we met last Thursday. It was a well-attended meeting. We basically just revisited the public intoxication ordinance that we're in the process of passing. Another thing that came up was, now that we've kind of got the problem in City Park controlled with intoxicated people, we're kind of branching out to the bike path and stuff. So we talked about that a lot and ways to remedy that. And that's about it.
Okay, super. This is where I usually jump over you, Tony, but you're up.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a number of items. I'll try to be brief. In the spirit of the cleanup, city staff has been talking for a little bit now about a community cleanup for the city, with the city employees taking part. That is currently planned for April 22nd in the afternoon. So if anybody on council had any ideas, we're always open to those. We're going to be looking a lot at the city properties, making sure that our house is in order, branching out from there, looking at projects. We, as a reminder, we have a work session on the 9th. So in a week, those are the community service contracts, and we do begin at 6 p.m. that night. I know it's a little bit of a change, and we appreciate the accommodation because we are expecting a slightly longer meeting. If anybody we will be sending out those applications in your packet for this next week, and we will look, and those individuals have been told that they are to be presenting, so they'll be able to answer your questions. This was developed largely to make sure that council knows exactly what the services are provided, what the groups do, because they're asking for funding from the city, and that funding has been provided to a lot of them. And we do have a couple more this year because we advertised that haven't applied before. Last year we did have to do some cuts, and we understand that. But the intent is to make sure that the most information is provided and that everybody has a chance to speak. So we hope that this will be successful. We will probably ask for input after this one. Maybe we do it at a different time next year, but have to try it the first time and see how it goes. Staff will be meeting with Wyoming Business Council staff and Idea Inc. Wyoming Business Council will have their next meeting in May here in Riverton. So we'll be talking about possible tours and if there's a reception and the like. So we're going to be meeting later this week, and we'll provide information to council once we know a little bit more about what they want to do and where we're going to take them. If anybody had any ideas, as always, things that they should see in our community from a business development standpoint, we are always open to those. So thank you for any input that you would provide. Shoplifting meetings are coming up. Those are on the 10th in Lander and on the 17th here in Riverton in these chambers. Those have been highly successful, in my opinion. They've been pretty well attended, and I really hope we get good attendance at these next ones as well. A lot of good information has been passed around, and a lot of good conversation is happening, so we're appreciative of that. Force meeting this coming Monday was already mentioned. Weekly WYDOT meetings are now underway. Those are Thursday mornings at 10 a.m. in these council chambers. And WYDOT staff answer questions, take input, give updates, roadmap the next week or 2 weeks, depending on what phase of the project. And those are very good for public information. The public is welcome to attend. If it starts getting too big, we'll open up the partition. The Solutions Committee will meet next week again, and we have some more items to go over. There are no additional ordinances currently coming forward right now, but we have put forward, obviously, a couple. So that committee has been diligent, and their conversations and have been very much appreciated simply because they bring so many different perspectives. We encourage anybody to come in and see the work that's been being done. Budget is beginning. That's always a fun time of year, and budget council has been provided the budget calendar and the weekly report. If anybody had any projects or ideas or questions about budget, capital projects, items that may or may not be on or being considered as part of the proposed budget from staff, we would like to hear about those. Those can come to me directly, and I'll be happy to disseminate those. So please feel free to email those to me whenever you like. And the last thing, just kind of an update. We had discussed previously an ERP system during the last budget process. The ERP system is the Enterprise Resource Planning system that basically is currently Black Mountain, which does all of our finance. They can also do the court system, and our court system is relatively antiquated. I'm understating that. So we have started looking at that now. This is a relatively, I bring it to your attention simply because it's kind of a big deal. This is the system that's going to handle all of our finance, all of our budget, all of our courts, but it also has the ability to do much more, including moving more towards a paperless operation. This does save money, but it also saves time. It creates efficiencies. So staff is looking at that. Everybody has been doing a great deal of work to trying to make sure that we know what is offered and also what it is that we think is good for the good for our organization to have. So we are going to be reviewing those with some demos over the next few weeks. Staff will, and then when we have something, we'll bring it forward as part of this budget process to have a much larger conversation with you. But we did want you to know about it. If anybody has any particular questions when you go home and Google ERP tonight, because I know everybody's going to go home at 9 o'clock and Google ERP.
Sure I am.
If any questions or ideas or, hey, this might happen, those are always good for us to hear from you in advance. The nice thing about these systems is they can integrate every part of your operation, all the way from permitting, all the way through finance, accounts payable, the whole 9 yards, if we do it properly on the front end. So we look forward to this process and giving you more information.
Deer shooting?
I believe I can permit a lot of things.
Does it also cover our police?
Your Honor, most of the items that are in our police department are very specific. The police department does work within our finance system, so it does touch the police department, but it is not. Doesn't have a lot of modules to go into that.
Okay. Is that all, Tony?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Schatz, I had a message on my table my wife left me about where to get the sacks, and so the sacks for the cleanup, we need the individuals need to bring their own sacks, correct?
Correct.
Your Honor.
Now, possibly, Kyle, could you talk with Robert and see if we could get sacks from the Wyoming Highway Department for that
we can
trash
look into that.
pickup group? The other question was, it would be nice, some people would like some sacks available and so that they could do that activity on a Saturday instead of a Sunday. I had to get special permission from my wife to play on Sunday. I don't know about the rest of you,
Won't
but
be granted either.
it will be a long, difficult task, but those are just some concerns that I think that we probably ought to address, and if we could include those, it would be a good idea.
Yes.
Okay. Solutions is Thursday at 5:30 this week?
Solutions is Thursday at 5:30, yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. I would like to take just a moment. We have two members of the FAST committee with us, Kyle Butterfield and Ernie Over. And I don't think they get lots of praise from the other locations, but our FAST community, our FAST group is phenomenal. And there was a letter in the Lander Journal that Misty posted, and I quickly thought that that was a letter that should be posted in the Riverton Ranger. And Ernie said, well, if you'd read your paper, it's already been in there. So to my defense, I haven't read 3 or 4 papers this week. So, but it was so well written by a citizen out of Lander, and it spoke to the points of real concern that people have of flying in and out of Riverton. And the size of the airplane and the quality of the service and the on time and how if they weren't flying Denver Connection, they would have been stranded outside the community. And so I just think it's a fabulous letter, and there's been some statements that, maybe we're paying too much for air service, but it's really an essential that we keep that air service. So I would appreciate everybody that could to speak to that. Chief Murphy and I went and saw a lady this last week that had a dog bite problem, and I appreciate the police taking their time to work their way right down to dog incidences and drag the mayor along with me to do that. The FTAG meeting we met in Shoshone, and FTAG is all Fremont County governments, and that's Du Bois, Pavilion, Shoshone, Hudson, Riverton, and Lander. And that's a group that gets a lot of things done. And Tony asked me what the budget line was for Riverton for that. And both Riverton and Lander pay $8,000 a year to be in that group. And so the county has been paying $5,000, and they're going to ask them to up their portion. But that group gets a lot done, and that director is Gary. He does a fantastic job. You mentioned the rebuild meetings. The first one was I went to that federal rebuild meeting, and that's going to work, and that's set up well. And so I think we need to get behind that and ease as much as we can the problems that occur there. I already mentioned how appreciative I was of the council to get behind the Gannet project, and I think that shows us how well we work together and what we can get done when we do. I was also thankful for a meeting with Tony and Kyle and Mike to discuss that in detail of what we knew about the Force Committee and how difficult it was to get that pushed forward. And we'll be going to the FAST Committee and trying to sell that. It was on the front page of the paper that I did see that the Kmart building has sold, and we're appreciative of that. I had one really exciting thing to do today. I got to go to middle school for 2 hours, and they took back my diploma. I got to talk to 4 classes about service work and the things in our community that need service, and how to get involved and how to participate. And I think that's such an important subject, and we as a council, I think, are doing a great job of that. And you're setting a good example, and I would like to appreciate the effort that you make. And that's all I have on my list. Kyle.
One question. Community development, or Tony, anything on Kmart building?
The Kmart building closed in Sutherland's.
Sutherland has,
They own it now.
they own it now?
Yeah, yes, Your Honor.
I didn't see anything in County 10, so I knew it wasn't for real, and so that's why I'm asking you.
I'll loan you my newspaper. It's on the front page.
Your Honor, the closing date was Friday, March 29th, and it closed late in the day. I found out at about 4:45 PM, so.
We also, I don't know if we should announce that on our other, no? All right, we won't. I took it off my list too, so here we go.
I will say, sometimes the Riverton Ranger gets the news that County 10 doesn't. I'm just saying.
I get them both.
It was in both today, though.
Oh, well, I haven't been home yet.
No need for an executive session?
No, Your Honor, we have nothing.
Okay. The chair would entertain a motion to adjourn the regular council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Hancock has the motion and the second by Councilman Rhoda. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned at 8:54.